Hello everyone, and welcome to the Brickformula review of LEGO set 10227, the B-wing Starfighter. It has 1,487 pieces for ages 16 and up, and it's from the Star Wars series, and this set retails for $199.99. And here in the front we have a scene from the Battle of Endor, which is really cool looking. And in the corner here we have the dimensions. Lengthwise is 26 inches, and the width is 15 inches with the wings expanded. And on the top here, there's nothing except for the actual size of the part there. And in the back here we see some of the features and details that are included in this set, and this thing just looks really cool. And let's take a closer look. And here's the B-wing. The first thing we'll take a look at is how the bags are divided. This way you have an idea as to how the building process goes. Bag 1 is for the engine block, and you get 2 brick separators, so in case you screw up, you can always take it apart and redo it. And you can have a friend help you out too if you want. Bags 2 and 3 is for this section right here. And then 4 and 5 is for the long wing over there. Bag 6 is for the guns on the end there. 7 is the cockpit. 8 and 9 are the wings, and number 10 is the stand. So it's pretty easy actually. There's nothing really challenging about this build, and you can definitely do it in one sitting. But anyway, enough about that. Let's take a look at the model itself. I'll start by showing you what this model looks like with a 360 view. And obviously this is the front. Down here we have an info sheet, and it's a sticker, and here's what it looks like. We also have 3 circle stickers, but the instructions only have you using 2 of them. One that goes over here, and another one on the bottom side right there. So you can always use the third one for whatever you want. And here's what it looks like as we turn it around. I admit, when I first saw this thing, I thought it was beautiful. I fell in love with it when I first saw it at the LEGO store on display. My wife had to drag me away because I was there for quite some time. But I was observing the techniques that they used in this thing, and it's really interesting. Okay, here's the view of the back. Love the way it looks. I was also a huge fan of the old X-Wing flight sims. I played that religiously back in the day. So I have a pretty good idea as to how the B-wing functions and everything. And now I'll zoom in on some of the details here. And so I'll start with the cockpit. Here's the rotating feature. Now what's interesting about it is that you don't really feel the friction as you turn it, because I thought there would be, considering this has to hold in place no matter how you turn it, but it does pretty well. Here it is upside down, and it's only held by 1 axle piece, which is really amazing. Now the only drawback to this is that when you compare this to the other UCS Alliance fighters, the cockpit doesn't open. It's actually locked down by this part right here, and as a result, I don't really like the way it looks either because it's a little sunken right here. They could have made a specialized piece, I guess, but I guess this is as good as it gets. This is a printed piece, by the way. And here's what the inside looks like. You gotta rip this part off. I think that's the easiest way to get in there. And as you can see, it's loosely attached. And here's what the inside looks like. Okay, this part can open up as well, but there's no point in doing that. And here's the control panel. And there we are. And now moving forward. The tank tracks right here have no relation to the rotating cockpit. This is just here to cover the gap that's over there. And here's the back of the cockpit. Honestly, I'm not too fond of the way they designed this part. I think it could have been a little better because these parts can move and sometimes they fall off too. But as long as you leave it alone, it should be okay. And now moving downward to the engine. Now, if you look carefully, they use these bionicle hands as part of the engine block here, and I thought that was brilliant. I love the way that looks. And it's also for that same reason that I really couldn't work for the LEGO company. I'm just simply not worthy. But it's okay. I prefer to be my own boss, and so there's that. And then moving downward. Actually, no, let's stay here for a second. Now, 20 years ago, I was a real Star Wars nerd. So when I saw this part, I assumed that that should have been part of the landing gear, because when you play the old X-Wing sims, they use this part, and it extends outward, and it lands with the wings folded. But when you look in the Star Wars wiki, that's actually the proton torpedo launcher. So, who knows? I would hunt down the real answer, but I think those days are well past. Anyway, now let's take a closer look at the wings here. They're mounted by these hinge parts, and there are 6 of them altogether. So it's kind of like a clicky joint there. Now, if you look at the reviews on the actual LEGO website, where you can buy the B-wing, some people say that the wings fall off and whatever. And to be honest, I think they're mounted on pretty securely. They haven't fallen off for me. And I have move them really fast, you know, like a workout here, and they hold pretty well. So I guess some of those reviews are a little off. Anyway, moving downward. Now here is where some of the complaints come from, and these, I believe. Now if you look carefully at the gun down here, okay, it's only mounted by 8 studs. That's it. So if you plan to play with this, which I did anyway, just to play test it, I kind of ran this into the door frame, and this thing will fall off because that's it. It's only attached by 8 studs, and I think it could have been mounted a little more securely. And assuming you don't knock this off, if you look carefully, these wedge plates on the sides here, there's 4 of them, and they're all mounted by 2 studs each. And up to now, I've already had to fix that 3 times because those definitely fall off. Especially since when you put this on the display stand, the model actually rests on this gun here. Which may seem like a bad thing at first, but it's actually a good thing too, because that also means that in the course of a few months you won't see the wing kind of sag downward because it's actually being held up by the guns there. So it's not too bad. Looking closely, I love the way they made this part right here. I thought that was genius. I'm gonna have to use that idea someday. Okay, now taking a close look at the 2 wings here. They're both made pretty much the same way except for this part. This one uses a double cheese slope. Down here is just 1 cheese slope and a tile piece. And I think that just about covers it. Actually, there is one more thing to show you, and that is to show you how the model sits on the display stand. Now, unlike the other UCS Alliance fighters, there's no hole in the ship where you have to insert the display stand into. Instead, we have this wedge piece right here, and we have another one on the other side. And basically, that part goes right in between these 2 axle pieces right there, and you just simply place the B-wing on top of the stand with the wings open, and it sits on top of that. It's that simple. So it makes it easy to pick it up and to put it back down to show it off to your friends. And for those of you who are wondering if you can display this with the wings closed, you sort of can. Alright, you can close the wing, and you just simply rest it on top of the display stand, and there we go. It's not as secure as it is with the wings open, but it can be done. For those of you who live in an earthquake zone, do not put this on your top shelf because the stand is not as sturdy as you'd like it to be, but it's good enough to hold the model up. Now, what's good about this display stand is that it also helps you get rid of the dust on the B-wing. Let me show you how. Okay, because you can always pick it up and have it sit on the other side. This way, the dust on this side can fall off while the other side gathers dust. And it's a pretty good solution to get rid of the dust because for those of you who are lazy like me, I think it's great. After all, who has time to clean it, right? I'm just kidding. But it is something to consider when you get this set. And the plaque can be removed to be attached to the other side because it's pretty much designed that way. So there we go. And finally, for those of you who do not wish to use a stand to display your B-wing, you can always pick it up. You can have the wings closed up, just like it does in these old X-Wing flight sims. And you can have it land on the ground. And it doesn't look too bad. Actually, from this camera angle, it looks pretty good. But when you look at it from the side, the whole B-wing actually faces in a slanted direction. And it's not supposed to. That's why I think this part should extend outward as part of the landing gear. This way it'd be more even with the ground. But it's not too bad, and it looks pretty good just like that too. And now we can move on to the recommendations. Overall, it's not a bad set. When it comes to the value, we have a price per piece ratio of 13.4 cents per piece, which is a little misleading because the value of the parts comes to $250 to $350 worth of parts here. But still, since this retails for 200 bucks, I do feel that it is a little pricey though, so a small discount would be nice. And when it comes to the play value, well, there is no play value. This is really just a model, and it's just meant to be displayed, not really played with. I mean, you could, but it's not practical because it weighs like 4 pounds, but actually feels heavier when you're playing with it. And plus, there are really delicate parts here, and depending on where you hold it, parts will fall off. Like if you hold it over here too hard, this part will come off, and same thing with this part. And as I mentioned earlier, the wedge plates down there by the gun, those will come off as well. So you can play with it just at your own risk. But in the end, it's a really good looking model, definitely one of its kind, and it's a must-have for any Star Wars collector. So in the end, I don't think they're going to make another UCS B-wing, so you should get it while you can. And that's it. That sums up my review. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. This part is what holds it down. And there's really not much to the inside. There's the seat, and there's a little printed piece for the control panel. In fact, let me show you what that looks like real quick. Not too quick. Alright, just rip it off like that. Alrighty, so there we go. Oops. Oh my goodness. Anyway, there's the cockpit. This on your top shelf because this thing is not as sturdy as you like it to be, but it's good enough to hold the model. And what I also like about this, oh crap,